This is 142, The Jungle by Wilfredo Lamb, made in 1943. Gouache on paper, mounted on canvas, and gouache. It's gouache. Excuse me. It is a an opaque like watercolor. The context is Wilfredo Lamb was a multicultural artist born in Cuba, but he had the heritage of China, Europe, Africa, and India. So he um, just had a lot of multicultural experiences. He moved to Europe, and there we know that he met up with artists like Cézanne, Gauguin, Picasso, and here he is with Picasso, and this is another of the Wilfredo Lamb pieces that is really a Picasso or Cubist. Oh, he also met Braque. And this would show you the influence of Gauguin, Picasso, and Matisse. You can see some real similarities, I hope. He returned to Cuba, though, felt like he wanted to more uncover his own roots and connections to the island and his heritage. And one of the many things that he was fascinated by was the worship of the Santeria faith. It's a combination of Catholicism and the Yoruba African traditions. And this would fall in line with the notion of surrealists who were interested in the dream-like state and experimenting with the subconscious. So this is one of the gods of Santeria here, the Elugia, and it's a cement head that's got the cowrie shells face, and it's used in homes as an altar and for worship. But here's a temple that is a Santeria temple, and it's got a doll here, and here are these dolls that you can buy in Cuba. And the idea is, one of the ideas is that spirits enter these dolls. And so you can talk to the spirits of your ancestors. More context is this is the exploitation of the people of Africa, and you can see where, in this diaspora where they've been taken, and this is the island of Cuba, and you can see that a lot of African people were brought here to use as labor to create or to grow sugar. And the sugar plantations we know were hellish places to labor, very racist. We see European overseers here, and just the harvesting of sugarcane is a horrendous job done in the hot sun, and just really rough on the hands. You use machetes to cut down this sugar, but it doesn't stop just with the cutting down. The sugar was processed to get the liquid out of the sugar cane, and this is a boiling house where that liquid is boiled down so that over here the granular sugar is left, and that's what's shipped to the to Europe, and it is sold, made a huge amount of money. Like the Caribbean islands were worth more than the 13 colonies from all of the wealth of sugarcane. So with all of that background, let's look at form. We see here there are 4 part human figures and part animal figures. Like here's a figure, here's a figure, here's one figure, and here's another figure. And you can see exaggerated hands, exaggerated feet and faces. The sugar cane, there is sugar cane here that's woven in. And then there's a right figure here that holds a shears. And then the faces really resemble the African mask faces that we saw in La Demoiselle d'Avignon. The bodies are fragmented, and then there's this cubist feel. There's geometry in here. And then there is this surrealism, this mixture of unrelated, it seems, or displaced objects, the African masks with sugar cane, and people are standing in the sugar cane as if it's a forest. Then in terms of content and form, sort of, we've got this blue greens, and then there are touches of yellow and white here that make it feel like maybe it's a moonlight or night scene. And it's titled The Jungle, but we know that sugarcane is not grown in a jungle, it's grown in a field, but perhaps it resembles a jungle with the density of the sugarcane, and then sugarcane is really tall as well. And in terms of content, so this is 1943. People had images of what the Caribbean was like. And so, your image of the Caribbean, which Cuba is a part of, probably entails this sort of beach scene with palm trees. It's beautiful. But Wilfredo Lamb wants us to know that the Cuba, for the people that lived there and that were brought there, was more of a difficult life involving a ton of labor, um, in enforced labor. So the function of this piece is more deep. It is about disturbing, as he said, disturb the dreams of the exploiter. So to challenge the colonialism that took place in Cuba, to challenge our view of the islands of the Caribbean and what actually went on there, and how people there and people that were brought there were exploited. That's the function of The Jungle by Wilfredo Lamb, made in 1943. I'm not going to pronounce it right. Gaucher on paper, mounted on canvas.